Duke, what's with the hair? You got aspirin?
You should feel better momentarily, and your memory will slowly return.
Duke, what's with the hair?
The specific...
Question. What kind of bear is best?
That's a ridiculous question.
False. Black bear. Fact. Bears eat beets.
Oh.
Bears. Beets. Battlestar Galactica.
Bears do not...
Yeah, Bob. You remember Bob, the guy that's gonna launch a nuclear attack? You got any more abuse you want to hurl my way? Or are you ready to go in here and take care of Bob?
What do you propose, Bob?
When in doubt, C4.
Well, howdy, campers. It's your favorite crazy little geeky penguin named Bob here. You know, the penguin of personification. The penguin that shares his perceptions beyond the powerful. You know, the penguin is always just kind of really stupid. In a silly way. Anyway, hey, Tracy, I see you're over there on Rumble. I am also up on YouTube at the moment. Who knows if that will stay that way or not? We're trying something new today. So, either way, I see Derpy Entertainment over on YouTube, or at least he was. They were. I have not seen the movie yet. It's not officially out. I've not got an early screening. He's referring to the Superman movie. The Superman movie that is coming out by James Gunn for DC is not out until tomorrow, actually. Anyway, yeah, YouTube can be kind of flaky. At least for me, it is. I don't know. I just seem to have problems with it. They don't like penguins, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's because I smell like fish. Anyway, this is going to be a short one today. I'm juiced up on iced coffee a little bit, but I am running on empty today. So I'm just going to talk about two different things, and then we're going to give it a go and let you go on your day. So anyway, first coming up, obviously we got to talk about the thing that's coming up tomorrow that's coming out. James Gunn's Superman, the Superman movie. From those content creators that I pay attention to, that I've seen, that have had a chance to go see it early screening, they say that it's not a home run, but it also is not bad, that it is a pretty decent movie. They said it's a very, it does stay within comics and so forth, so it should be interesting. Obviously, they've not given any spoilers yet. I don't think they're allowed to till tomorrow. I'm not really sure because I'm not in the know on all that. Anyway, what I have been seeing, though, is there has been a controversy, at least in the last week or so, about, and we're going to get into it a little bit, about the Superman movie that's coming out, whether or not it's woke or not. And let me switch over here to, I'll pull up my first little article. Once again, all these articles and videos and everything are down in the description of this live stream. And first one here is on the Independent. It says, super woke. Fox News rages that new Superman film has pro-immigrant themes. Shocker. Did you know that Superman's not really human? That he is an alien from another planet, and by their definition, an immigrant? It just, the more and more I see stuff like this, the more and more I think this world has just lost its bonkers. It's lost its marbles. They've gone bonkers. They've gone crazy. Anyway, since it's about human kindness, and obviously there will be jerks out there who are just not kind and will take it as offensive just because it's about kindness. Superman director James Gunn said last week, setting off a MAGA outrage cycle. Jumping on board the latest MAGA outrage, Fox News took aim at director James Gunn for proclaiming the latest Superman reboot as a story about an immigrant that came from other places. I mean, if you've ever read about Superman in the comics or anything like that, is that really a newsflash? That he's not of this world? It's like, spoiler alert! Spoilers! Superman is not from this planet. Wow. Anyway, he says that Superman reboot is a story about an immigrant that came from other places, and some may take offense to it because the film centers on human kindness. He's creating a moat of woke, enlightened opinion around him. He's got a woke shield. Fox News host Greg Gutfeld grumbled Monday as an on-screen graphic blared that the super woke movie embraced pro-immigrant themes. And I don't really know if that's the point here that James Gunn is actually trying to push. If so, it's really kind of stupid. He really needs this movie to do well, I think. Speaking of the Times of London last week, which, by the way, I've got that article. Plus, we're going to watch a video here in a little bit by Zion Renegade, who goes in depth on that article. Speaking to the Times of London last week, ahead of the premiere of his new film, Gunn discussed some of the themes that the new iteration of the oft-told story touches on, such a conversation that Superman's alter ego, Clark Kent, has with Lois Lane about geopolitics and whether he should have stopped a war. Now, something I thought was kind of interesting, this is not a new idea to bring up in a movie, because if anybody remembers Superman 4 with Christopher Reeve in it, that movie, he actually decided to abolish all nukes from the planet. That's actually how we came across his, of course, spoiler alert in that movie. Lex Luthor, played by the late, great Gene Hackman, actually used that to his advantage and created a baddie that had Superman's powers called Nuclear Man. But when Superman collected all the nukes around the world and took them and tossed them into the sun, not my favorite Christopher Reeve Superman movie, but nevertheless, it's not a new idea. Continuing on with the article here, it says, it is definitely the most unusual thing that we have put in the movie, he said. Yes, it's about politics, but on another level, it's about morality. Do you never kill no matter what, which is what Superman believes? That's why he's often called the Boy Scout. Or do you have some balance, as Lois believes? Amid the Trump administration's immigration crackdown and mass deportation plans, Gunn has also noted that his film leans into the character's well-known backstory as an outer-worldly refugee, a plot point that has been explored in Superman comics over the years. Now, the problem I have with this, yes, it's in the comics and so forth, but why do you have to go out of your way to point it out? You don't have to do that. Just let the movie tell a good story about, I don't know, the Man of Steel. It's a comic book movie. Anyway, the Man of Steel story is the ultimate example of a refugee. See, that's the term I would much rather call Superman rather than an immigrant. An immigrant indicates that he was already living here on this planet and he moved to a different country. He's a refugee. His home planet of Krypton exploded. It blew up. It was a bluey. And so, he's the last son of Krypton. That's one of his names. Because the very fact is, he's the last son of Krypton. His home planet no longer exists in the comics, of course. Anyway, DC Comics noted when backing World Refugee Day last decade. On top of that, Superman's creator Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster were both Jewish. And the children, by the way, if you don't know who Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster are, they are the creators of Superman. They're the ones that came, this is their brainchild. And the children of immigrants who fled anti-Semitism in Europe, which influenced the character's story. I mean, Superman is the story of America, he declared. An immigrant or refugee that came from other places, how about another planet, and populated the country. But for me, it is mostly a story that says basic human kindness is a value and is something we have lost, which I'll agree with that. So much in this world nowadays, the simple, even politeness of saying thank you and you're welcome and things like that are just simply gone. They don't really exist. They're more the exception than they are the rule anymore. When asked by the interviewer if he had considered how the film would be received in red states compared to liberal cities, Gunn acknowledged that it plays differently, but that it ultimately is a story about morality. Superman has always been about morality. Matter of fact, there's been times to where you've seen in the comics where there's been some, especially among the Justice League, there has been some conflict between Superman and Batman. Batman, who likes to gray the lines or gray the areas of morality sometimes to get the job done. Superman won't do that. I mean, the one thing that kind of bothers me about this movie is they left out the real tagline here, that Superman stands for truth, justice, and the American way. But look, that first word there, truth, stands for the truth. That is a moral thing, yes. Let's see here. Gunn's comments inevitably led right-wing pundits and Trump acolytes to predictably fly into rage about the crappy film that they have yet to see, while urging for other conservatives to boycott it, all while parroting the standard MAGA refrain of "Go woke, go broke." See, this is the part that I hate. This is the part I don't like. Why do they have to make, and it seems like every day, every single thing that comes out that is just simply should be a good story, they have to make it somehow political or some type of ideological stance or woke, or even if it's not, they have to bring it up this way. Why can't it just be a story about a guy from another planet that's got these extraordinary powers, who comes along and stands for truth, justice, and the American way and saves the day when you need him to? And even more, in this version, has a flying dog named Crypto. All right, going on to the next thing here. I occasionally watch Sky News Australia, and they wound up talking about it a little bit. So I thought we'd watch this little bit of excerpt of it. And this is a guy named Douglas Murray, which I don't know who that is, but he hits out at the new Superman movie for going woke. I don't know. My decision of whether or not this movie's actually really woke or not. First off, I haven't seen it. I don't know if it is or not. I hope it's not. But merely saying that the movie's about human kindness and morality, I don't have a problem with those things. Because that's kind of what Soups has always stood for anyway. All right, so let's watch this and see what they say.
Studios' James Gunn has confirmed the new Superman will have a political message. He said, Superman is the story of America, an immigrant that came from other places and populated the country. Of course, when you think of Superman, you think of the story of immigration. Douglas, it seems these studios would rather make a loss or push their political ideology than actually give audiences what they want.
Now, see, I agree with what she just said there. That's exactly what there's... I wonder, to a certain extent, to be honest with you, whether or not James Gunn's actually doing this. Is he actually really trying to push some type of ideological thing, or is he just kind of checking all the boxes of all the people there in Hollywood so that they hear the right things from him, but he's really just trying to make his version of Superman? Who knows?
I know. I mean, one of the great lessons of the box office in recent years in the US and elsewhere is that people want good movies, amazingly enough. Look at what Top Gun 2, Top Gun Maverick managed to achieve. Basically saved...
Oh, Top Gun Maverick. If you ever seen Top Gun Maverick, you've been living under a rock. That movie is awesome. And the little bit of excerpt before it that Tom Cruise comes out and literally just thanks the audience for watching his movie. That's what it should be about, man. Just about a good story. So you can go and unplug from your stressful life for about 2 hours and just hear a good story and walk away feeling hopeful.
The cinemas from the Snow White.
He brought up Snow White. That was a massive failure by Disney. Anyway,
disaster of the last year, and they should have realized that, you know, the public don't want to hear Snow White or Superman opining about how they can be the hero they were meant to be, that they were born to be, against all the odds of the etc. You would have thought by now the studios were so depleted in their ideas that we would have had ourselves force-fed an ethnically diverse female Superman.
He's not wrong there, because at one point, I don't know if most people knew this or not, but there was plans in the works by DC, Warner Brothers, to have good old J.J. Abrams, Jar Jar Abrams, to create a new Superman series or a Superman movie when the lead was going to be a minority and a person of color. Which, why does any of that matter? It should just be about making a story about Superman, how he is in the comics. He wasn't written that way. He wasn't written with the politics or any of that jazz. He was written as we know him. That's why, in my mind, no matter how good this movie may be, out of all the individuals that have played Superman and all the different iterations we've seen of him in live action, nothing in my mind is going to beat Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves is my Superman. When I saw that movie as a kid, I literally believed the tagline that Richard Donner had about that movie, that you believe that a man could fly. I walked away feeling like, yeah, that's a flying man named Superman. He's going to save the day. Christopher Reeve had it all, man. He played a good Superman and a good Clark Kent. Don't get me wrong, I like Dean Cain and Henry Cavill and all them as well. Matter of fact, I don't think there's really any of the Supermans that have played in live action that I don't like. I've liked them all. And with the exception of the costume, David Cornsweet, who is the Superman in James Gunn's version of this, he does look the part. I am wanting to go see this so I can see just how it turns out. I hope that all this stuff that I'm talking about right now is just not really a thing. I just hope I go there, I watch a Superman movie, And I walk away going, whoo, yeah, baby, I saw a superhero movie. Which I can't remember the last time I saw one like that. Maybe Avengers Endgame or something. I don't know. Where I actually walked away feeling like that was like comic books coming to life on the big screen. Anyway, I'm rambling as usual.
And that if you didn't just love that, then you were obviously the kind of bigot who should be arrested by as many police officers as a local force can bring up. But all this stuff is connected. It's always just this tedious, predictable, juvenile politicking being forced on us, whether on flags on the streets, whether by the police, whether by the studios and elsewhere. And just, the police have a job of policing. The authorities should keep cities clean, and studios and film studios should make films that we actually want to watch.
100%.
There's a thought for free.
Oh my goodness! What he just said there. Let me back that up.
The police have a job of policing.
Not that part.
The authorities should keep cities clean, and
not that part.
Studios.
This part. Studios. Hollywood movie studios.
And film studios should make films that we actually want to watch.
Exactly. Ding, 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 ding. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, baby. This guy gets it. Hollywood studios, who are supposed to be making movies, should be just doing that. Making movies that we want to see. It's not rocket science, Hollywood. That's how you make money. You make a good movie, word of mouth spreads, you put butts in seats, they'll watch it, they'll come out from the woodwork. People love going to the movies, at least they used to. I just don't get it. It's not that difficult. It's a no-brainer. Come on. Anyway, got me fired up a little bit. But this guy's right. Just make the stupid movies we want to see. Come on. Leave all that junk out of it. Just make a good story. One that we can go there, turn off our cell phones, throw popcorn at our neighbor, and have a good time. Anyway.
And, there's a thought for free.
That is a good thought. And I think DC Studios have really missed an opportunity here. They could have gone with a non-binary Superman. In fact, call him Super They, because man is a very exclusionary.
Super They. How stupid would that be? All right, anyway, if you didn't know, I'm not going to watch the rest of this. You can watch the rest of it if you really want to. The link, like I said, is down in the description. But here's where I think the best response is to all of this. One of my all-time favorite actors, Nathan Fillion, is actually in this movie. He plays a Green Lantern. He doesn't play the Green Lantern I thought he should be playing, Hal Jordan, because he's actually voiced Hal Jordan in the DC animated universe numerous times. Nathan Fillion's been the voice of the Green Lantern for Hal Jordan. But in James Gunn, and in typical James Gunn fashion, he likes turning things up on side. He may have been the Guy Gardner. And he kind of looks like Guy Gardner. I don't know if he'll act like Guy Gardner, but here's Nathan Fillion's response. I think this right here is really what needs to be said when people bring this stuff up. Good on you, Nathan, because this stuff is just silly. It should be about a movie. Variety right here. Let's take a listen.
James has said that Superman is an immigrant story, that it is political.
First off, did you see him cock his head back there? It's like, oh, here we go again. Because he's just there because he's an actor. He's in the movie.
MAGA today was getting a little upset that he called Superman an immigrant. I wanted to get your reaction.
Somebody needs a hug. It's just a movie, guys.
Exactly. It's just a movie. It's all it should be. It's just a movie. It shouldn't be a political movement. It shouldn't be something that gets people fired up. It should just be about a good story, a good Superman story. What it should be. All right. So now, there's a YouTuber out there that I watch from time to time called Valiant Renegade. He's really good about breaking down things, especially even the money aspect of things when it comes to the movie industry and pop culture. And I thought he went through this article, which I'll show you the article first, by the London Times. They actually get into this. James Gunn, some people will take offense at my new Superman. And he goes into a little more detail here about it. By the way, I think it's kind of odd, too. This guy was in Captain America, played Crossbones. Anyway. I'm not going to read this because I think Valiant does that and he gets into it a little more about this. So, but the article is down there. If you actually want to read the article on your own, as well as the link to Valiant Renegade's video on this. It's about 18 minutes long, and we're going to watch most of it. So let's just get into it, see what he's got to say about it.
I think by this point, he's kind of wising up that he's getting cornered. They're begging him to talk about politics and to step in it, which hasn't been horribly wrong. And this is the point, is like a lot of the tone that people were getting from this article was largely being set up by the author of the article, by the journalist. Mm-hmm. By the guy who was conducting the interview. They alluded to the F Trump thing. That was from like 2018, though. That was 7 years ago.
Yeah, we already knew that. So people are running with this like he just said it again?
Yeah, see, he definitely makes a distinction of the person that wrote this article. And I agree with him that it looks like this person in the article is just trying to stir things up, making something out of nothing.
It's doing this article. He's bringing up a lot of these points himself. This is not Gunn saying this. This is
Correct.
The writer of this article in the Times of London. So yes, some fans will simply like the film for the huge fights, the sidekicks, the superdog, plus the humor so often missing from Superman films.
Well, it's a James Gunn movie. There's going to be humor in it. I mean, look, he did the Guardians of the Galaxy. And every one of those films had quite a bit of levity in it. I don't have a problem with that.
Superman is playful. He enjoys his job, yet the film is coming out, and here we go, during a summer of protests in the United States about President Trump's plans for and rhetoric about immigrants, which is jolting, given that Superman makes clear that he is a refugee from another place who came to the U.S. So you can already see now how this is being set up.
Yeah, there's somebody longing for the summer of love and wishing that it was here again, but it's not.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the obvious, ridiculous differences between how none of that comparison is anyway. I mean, anybody that thinks that this is a comparable situation needs to have their heads checked.
Yeah, now, let me think about this for a second. It feels like this writer of this article, the London Times, is just trying to find a way to point out what he feels is that it should be about, instead of it just being a movie. It's like they can't leave it alone. It's like they can't ever just let a movie be a movie. It has to have some type of political, ideological spin or woke spin on it. It would be nice if we could actually just get back to just movies being what? Movies. Entertainment. Not politics. Not ideology. Not religion. Not wokeness. It's just entertainment. It's the things to kind of let you unplug from your already stressful life as it is and spend a few moments looking at a guy from Krypton saving the day. You know?
And before you say, quote, Superman has gone woke, this is all in Superman's lengthy history.
Oh, he's always been woke. Oh, okay.
Superman was written by men from immigrant families, and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees once released a book in Italy titled Superman Was a Refugee Too.
Now, here's the funny thing. I had to pause. I'm sorry, I'm pausing this again. But woke wasn't a thing back when Superman was created. It wasn't even a movement. So how can this guy that wrote this article even say, yeah, he's always been woke? What? I think you're reaching, dude.
I heard he was Mexican.
Less than 10 years ago, DC Comics backed World Refugee Day. The Man of Steel story is the ultimate example of a refugee who makes his new home better. In the edition of Action Comics 987, Superman saves a group of undocumented workers from a violent racist. Now, let me tell you something. I don't know exactly when 987 was released, but I do remember when Superman 500 came out, because that was the one where Superman came back, right? He was dead. We had the black bag edition.
Right.
Then we had Superman 500 was the white bag edition. He came back after being killed by Doomsday.
You racist.
That was in that was in 1996, 97, something like this.
Yeah, that was massive. That was a movement there. Comic book lovers back in that day couldn't believe they killed off Superman. That he died, was killed by Doomsday. Awesome run, I think. Of course, I've always been a Marvel fan more than DC, but still, there's still some things I know about the DC universe, and that was one of them that I thought was kind of, wow, jaw-dropping.
That was almost 1,000 issues ago. So I promise you this Superman 987 was something that's been written in the last couple of 2 years.
Doesn't really matter. You know that they'll ignore is the main things. Like, this is the thing. This is all editorializing.
Yeah.
So we got to take that into consideration, because I see some people are thinking, no, this is not James Gunn's words. This is the person who wrote the article.
No, this is that.
Oh, to pause. We got to look at something here. To pause. Where's it at? Look at the doggy. Crypto. I'm a dog lover. I think it's cool. I do want to see this partly because the crypto's in it. Anyway.
You know what else they won't write? That Superman was basically inspired by Hercules and Moses.
Yeah.
You got that right.
So there's a lot of things that are missing here.
Because guess what? It is the story of Moses.
Yep. He's Space Moses.
This is where we're going back to Gunn's actual quotes, to be clear. I mean, Superman is the story of America, James Gunn says. An immigrant.
Now, the part I don't like about that is, if Gunn actually said that, then why does he leave that part of it out in the tagline, truth, justice, and the American way? I forget what Gunn actually says. He leaves the American way part of it out. I don't understand that one. I don't.
Immigrant that came from other places and populated the country. But for me, it's mostly a story that says basic human kindness is a value and is something that we have lost. I, the writer of this article, ask if he has considered how differently the film might play in, say, a blue state like New York, aka Metropolis, and Kansas.
Wait a minute. New York is Gotham. They've got it reversed.
He's not wrong. New York is Gotham. Come on. It's not Metropolis. Metropolis has always been a city of hope. Gotham is not that. I don't know about you, but in this modern day age, when I think of New York, I don't think of New York being a city of hope. I see a city of, well, on the border of being lawlessness.
Kansas, where Kent grew up. He says,
just call it like I see it.
The writer, he says, I ask if he has considered how differently the film might play in a blue state like New York, like Metropolis, or Kansas, a red state. I'm adding those words in there, but that's what he means, where Kent grew up. James Gunn's answer is yes, it plays differently, he admits. But it's about human kindness, and obviously there will be jerks out there who are just not kind and will take it as offensive just because it's about kindness. But
see, you shouldn't have said the last part. The first part was fine.
It's a weird answer. Yeah.
Yeah, the first part was fine because the first part says, look, yeah, it's going to play differently because you're from different places, but it doesn't matter because you can relate to Superman no matter what because he's a guy from Kansas, plus he lives in Metropolis. That's all he had to say is something like that, right? But again, this interviewer keeps trying to make it political. James Gunn has it out, and then he goes and says the last thing like an idiot. Right?
It's like,
yeah, I don't understand that part either. He's right. Tom's right there. It's like the interviewer that wrote the article here in the London Times is trying to make this all about political, and James Gunn almost like shoots him down and then shoots himself in the foot.
It's like if Mr. Rogers said, won't you be my neighbor? And if you won't, screw you. Yeah. Like you can't, listen, you can't tell people to be kind and then end it with it doesn't work.
It's almost like he is Star-Lord.
Oh, is that how this works?
The writer does follow this up with something to try to put things in context after this question that he asked James Gunn, kind of, hey, do you think this is going to play differently in a blue state than a red state with your audiences, Mr. Director of Superman, James Gunn? So we got that answer. Then the writer comes back with his own editorialization of that with, before we go on, it should be said that James Gunn has a history with Donald Trump. In 2018, after Gunn's public criticisms of the president, which included a sexually vulgar joke and comparisons with Adolf Hitler and Putin, the right-wing commentator Mike Cernovich pulled up social media jokes by Gunn about pedophilia. You know, YouTube doesn't like us using stupid words. And Holocaust, which led to a social media campaign against him. Gunn apologized, but under pressure, the Walt Disney Company, his employer at that time, fired him. And we talked about this to...
Let's be clear, Alan Horn fired him.
Alan Horn fired him. Before further pressure led to reinstate him. There is a scene in the new Superman. This is back to the...
Yeah, by the way, I find it kind of funny that Disney fired him and he kind of got a promotion in a way. Because he went on to go be head of the creative studio of DC. Instead of no longer dealing with Marvel and all their and all the House of Mouse's weirdo stuff.
Author of the, this is not James Gunn. This is the author. Because this does get confusing if you're just listening to this. There's a scene in the new Superman with Luthor's monkeys trolling away at screens. So basically, Lex Luthor's monkeys trolling away at screens, like I'm guessing tweeting and using social media to put out bad information. This is basically how Disney does all of their social media marketing. So this is so funny that James Gunn and Warner Brothers decided to do a riff on Disney Star Wars and Disney Marvel bots on social media with fake accounts. It's just a bunch of monkeys in a room. They're not released.
He's not wrong about this. The Disney's been doing that. I mean, they've been doing preemptive strikes now for the last several years. That when they think a movie's going to go bad, what's the first thing they do? They start calling the fans the R word and saying that they're all biased and nobody will ever like anything that we create. You should like what we like because we're weird. We're Disney. We're the House of Mouse, and we've been around forever. You should do what we say. That type of thing. And if you don't, well, then you're the R word. And they have done that continually. If you don't believe me, just go look at the Gina Carano lawsuit stuff that's been happening. Which, by the way, she and her lawyers are still kicking butt about that. I can't wait to see Disney go down in flames for it. I don't want Disney to disappear. I liked Disney over the years. I don't like them now. I liked them back when they actually held true to Walt Disney's vision of things. They should leave all the stuff out of it. The ideology, the politics, the wokeness. It should just go back to, I don't know, same thing I've been saying for years now. Just making good content. Just make a good movie. Stop using social media to trash the fans before the movie even comes out. That's just stupid. Why don't you wait and, I don't know, make a good movie, then wait for the fans to see if they really like it or not. That's how it used to be done. Shocker. You didn't have to worry about it if you actually made a good movie. People will see it. They'll go. It's like Field of Dreams. If you make it, they will come. If you put ideology and wokeness in it, they'll go away. Anyway.
Making a commentary on Disney, or are they? I don't know. Maybe. Was that, I ask James Gunn, alluding to what happened to him? I don't think so, James Gunn says, grinning. It's not really about me, but people in general driven by rage or the bots governments pay for that create all sorts of nonsense.
That almost, look, do you guys remember when this story first came out about the monkeys? And everybody's like, this is because he got canceled. I said, he was never really canceled. And then I talked to my guy. I said,
correct.
He goes, because I said, I wonder if it's more about the Snyder bots. And my guy come to me and said, you're more in line with what he's avoiding that answer right here.
Yeah. Yeah. He's avoiding it. Yep. And look, I get it, and because this may go into some NDA type territory with Disney that he has to be very careful.
Well, he already threw Disney under the bus, but that's why I don't think that this is about Disney. You can throw him under the bus, but you can't necessarily say things that they were doing outright in the background that might be protected by NDA. I don't think this is about Disney, though. I think this is about the Snyder bots. I honestly do.
That too. Yeah. You're probably right about that.
That's what I was saying is like my guy said, yeah, you're more in line because everybody was assuming it was him being canceled. I said, yes, but you guys got to remember, and this kind of goes off of what we were just talking about. James technically never really was canceled, quote unquote. Yes, he got fired very publicly.
Yeah, being fired and canceled are not the same thing. Canceled means they're trying to make you go away. They want to erase you from existence, like what they've done to Gina Carano. Fired means, you no longer work here. Go find someplace else to work. But technically, was he really all that fired? Because he got rehired. And then he kind of quit and went to go work for DC. And to be honest with you, I don't even know why this even matters, according to this writer of the article. He's bringing up stuff out of the woodwork. I think it's because, like, they don't have anything to really latch onto, so he's trying to just grab at the smallest of slivers to try to kind of put a bad light on this movie. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand. Hollywood's weird. They're the only place to eat their own. It makes no sense to me. Okay, going back to it.
But everybody had to backtrack on that, and he ended up getting a deal. He got another job out of the deal, so he got the opposite of canceled.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Well, I'm saying,
In fact, he got 3 or 4
got
jobs out of the deal.
Yeah, he did. I say, the author of the London Times article now, I say, how in our divided world, if Superman did actually turn up, we would argue against him, shun him, call him a fraud, and kick him out. James Gunn answers, quote, "It's happening with the movie. We posted footage of David Cornsweet, who's playing Superman, with a bunch of kids who were extras on set. Kids love Superman. It's like when they see Santa and David is high-fiving them. It was so beautiful, such a cutie video. Then I saw people saying, oh, great, we've got a Superman who's a puss. Are you kidding me? That's something you're going to attack. That's little kids like this guy. That little kids like this guy and he's kind. I didn't see the comment. I mean, I don't know if somebody God only knows who posted that one. But hey, I mean, that's James Gunn's story. The writer says James Gunn, is incredulous about this, almost delirious.
Here's the part that I also think that this writer, the London Times article here, is totally clueless about. James Gunn kind of also has indicated that this movie was made for kids as well. It's meant to be kid-friendly. It's Superman, for crying out loud. Superman has always been kid-friendly. Well, there are some dark things in the comics, but for the most part, he's always been a superhero equated to truth, justice, being hopeful. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, that S is supposed to be the symbol on Krypton, meaning the word hope. There you go. Anyway.
This feels like a decent time to raise a topic that he might want to skirt away from. The fictional countries of Barovia and Jarhanpur in the film. Barovia, armed to the absolute teeth, plows into the rather unfortified Jarhanpur, which appears to be a Middle Eastern state. The Barovians seem to want to kill everyone in sight. Which countries, I ask James Gunn, does he think viewers will believe are being...
Now, see, once again, this writer is just trying to pull something out that's not there necessarily so that he can just have some type of ideological talking point that kind of try to trash the movie again.
Being alluded to here. James Gunn's answer, quote, "Oh, I really don't know. But when I wrote this, the Middle Eastern conflict wasn't happening. So I tried to do little things to move it away from that, but it doesn't have anything to do with the Middle East. It's an invasion by a much more powerful country run by a despot into a country that's problematic in terms of its political history, but has totally no defense against the other country. It really is fictional." So I think that's a fine answer.
This movie should have came out almost 2 years ago. But if you remember correctly, there was a moment there that there was a good 10, 12 months of the Writers Guild strike that nobody could work or anything. The movie started being written and filmed before that strike, and then they had to put it on hold. That all happened before any type of the conflict that's currently happening in the Middle East. That's why I said I think this writer is just pulling stuff out of his proverbial socks. Anyway.
You're going to say it's totally Ukraine and Russia. I'm fictional. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for whatever it's worth. But again, whether it may be or not, that's a fine answer from Gunn.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with that.
But it's totally Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah. I
was going to say, why didn't he use that kind of answer for the first one?
Yeah. I think by this point, he's kind of wising up that he's getting cornered. They're begging him to talk about politics and to step in it, which hasn't been horribly wrong. And this is the point, is like I think a lot of the tone that people were getting from this article was largely being set up by the author of the article, by the journalist.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
The guy who was conducting
when
the
I read
interview.
this, when I read this, I felt like this author is just nitpicking and trying to corner Gunn to get him to say something that he wants him to say, instead of actually talking about what the movie is really like, or maybe the process, or, you know, what Gunn thinks about the movie itself. Instead, it's making it about what the author is trying to push. I really do. And we're going to stop right there. I'm not going to watch the rest of this. Like I said, the link is down in the description if you want to watch the rest of that video. I recommend go watch some of Valiant Renegade stuff. He really, really breaks down things pretty well. He's a good guy. Good YouTuber about this stuff. Anyway. So, I want to switch gears here for a moment. Sort of switch gears. There is a an article I found that I thought is very kind of important. It kind of brings up the question and answers the question that to me is like, why is superheroes important in our culture? Why is it such a big thing? You know, why does it matter? Okay. All right. Anyway, this is from a site called Psychology Today, and I'm going to read this article, and I like a lot what is said in it, because it does kind of make sense to me. It says right here, the rise of superhero culture and why it matters. To me, this is one of the reasons why I get so upset about all this political ideology, the identity politics, the wokeness, and all this stuff in it, because I feel like they are watering down something that I grew up reading and enjoying and feeling hopeful about. I love my comic books. I do. I'm not as good a comic book nerd as some of these other YouTubers out there, but I'll tell you this much, though. I do love my good stories, the ones that I got into, and so forth. And I think it's important. Yeah, maybe it's silly. I don't know. Depends on your viewpoint of things. But I think just like some of this other stuff that made sense, like, for example, Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey and stories out of the Bible and other things like that. Our culture, when I say we, I mean humanity as a human race. Everybody that's on this planet, every human that's on this planet that has lived and is now living, we are about stories. It's how we share our history. It's how we share our feelings. It's how we share what's going on in our lives or what our hopes and dreams are. That's why I feel like it's very important. And to water that down with something other than what it's meant to be is just wrong, in my opinion. So let me read here. The rise of superhero culture and why it matters. Beyond entertainment is the hope for salvation from global problems. The last few decades have seen the rise of superheroes in our popular culture. It all started back in the 1980s with the original Superman movies that starred the late Christopher Reeve, which in my opinion will always be my Superman. I have nothing against David Cornsweet or Dean Cain or Henry Cavill or Tyler Hoechlin or any of those guys that have played Superman before. Christopher Reeves, to me, is my Superman. He's my favorite. After those movies came the original Batman movie starring Michael Keaton. And like even the movie that was a bomb that DC released about the Flash, Flash being my favorite Superman superhero character from DC. I didn't care for that movie, but I did like seeing Old Man Bats, played by Michael Keaton. There was a lull in the 90s and early 2000s until Marvel Studios decided to bring the whole Marvel universe to the big screen with the advent of the first Iron Man movie starring Robert Downey Jr. in 2008, baby. By the way, that's what started, that movie right there is what started the MCU. And now look at it. Disney, you have messed things up so badly. Anyway, don't get me started on that. In the second installment of new Batman movies, The Dark Knight by Christopher Nolan and stuff. Oh, I love The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker is just one of a kind. One of the biggest opening weekends of all time and was hailed as the greatest superhero movie ever made. I don't know if it's the greatest one. I can't really say right off the top of my head which I think is the greatest one ever made. But I'll tell you this much. It's in my top 5, Dark Knight. Oh, man, it's a good movie. And then we even have the latest edition that recently came out, Deadpool and the Wolverine, which has already grossed many millions of dollars. Collectively, superhero movies have grossed billions of dollars and have entertained millions. But why are they so popular? They have enormous budgets, cutting-edge special effects, excellent screenwriting, at least they used to, and seem larger than life. However, is there more to superhero culture than meets the eye? And that's what this article dives into. Let's dive deeper into this. If you look at all the movies of this genre, there is a common theme. A villain who wants to plunder and pillage and spread fear. And then there's the quintessential villain from The Dark Knight is the Joker, for example, played by the late, great Heath Ledger. Oh, excuse me. Who was not seeking money or power, but just wanted to spread destruction and chaos. Matter of fact, there's a scene in that movie where Alfred, played by Michael Caine, is talking to Christian Bale, played Bruce Wayne, and he's trying to understand. And I love this line that Alfred says to Bruce. He says, "Some men just want to see the world burn," and that sums up the Joker in The Dark Knight. That he wasn't about money or fame or power or anything else. He just wanted to see Gotham burn. The movie dives into the Joker's past, and what we learn is that he had an alcoholic father and a troubled mother. Essentially, he was traumatized as a kid, and his experiences transformed him into what he becomes in The Dark Knight. Yeah, Daddy's a little bit of a drinker. That's what you say. That's a line in the movie, by the way. Anyway, his actions are simply him lashing out at society that did not help him when he was going through his childhood, his darkest times. So many of us can relate to that. Maybe not relate to the things that you're traumatized or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. That there's times where you feel like you're going through something alone. There are similar themes in other superhero movies. One thing common to most villains is that they have grandiose egos. that lead them to believe that they are in the right and everyone else is in the wrong. Yeah. Villains, I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase or not, but villains think they're the hero of their own story. They really do. A perfect example. Look at Thanos from the Avengers Infinity Wars and Avengers Endgame. I just watched those two movies the other day again. He was seeking to end half the life in the universe because he believed it was overpopulated, and in his mind, this was the right thing to do, a kindness, a mercy in his own words. So once again, why does any of this matter? If you look at the real world today, it is populated by leaders whose egos are so big that they believe that they can do no wrong and are solely in the right. Look at the regional conflicts going on around the world, Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Palestine, and at the militia groups in various African countries that are fighting their governments. Now you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, Bob, what's going on here? Did he just go political? No, he's not. Bear with me. He's getting into what's happening in the real world. We can't ignore what's happening in the real world. And it doesn't always mean we're talking about politics. What it means is we're looking at the decline of humanity. A lost world that's lost in sin. It is the innocent men, women, and children who get caught in the crossfire of these conflicts and who truly suffer. Despite the efforts of humanitarian and relief organizations, there is ongoing suffering in the various conflicts. In fact, many of the world's problems can arguably be boiled down to uncontrolled ego that seeks power and wealth. This is true of organized crime, organizations that sell illicit drugs and sell slaves or sex slaves. It can also be said of greedy corporations whose products are produced in factories that employ labor at minimum wage and deplorable conditions and pollute the environment, destroying delicate ecosystems. This is where superhero culture comes in. I believe that the author of this article believes that the popularity of the superhero is rooted in the false hope that someone else will save us and solve all our problems. And he's kind of right. It is a false hope. But it is a hopeful story, normally. If this were not true, more people would be standing up for justice for victims of war, victims of human trafficking and slavery, victims of the global illicit drug trade, and the delicate ecosystems being destroyed. He goes on to say, don't get me wrong, there are individuals around the world who are striving to bring awareness and change to these issues. However, the efforts are few and far between. Yeah, like, for example, the movie the Angel Studios produced a couple of years ago, the Sound of Freedom, about child trafficking, human trafficking of children. Each one of us is responsible for the society and the world that we live in our own individual sphere, that is. And every intention we have and every action we take deeply matters. No superhero is coming to save us. It is up to us to be the change that we want to see in the world. Now, this particular part, I don't completely 100% agree with, because we'll get into it here in a minute, but I believe there is a superhero, but nobody's really talking about this superhero. Not like they should. It is easy to become disheartened with the corruption that abounds in society at all levels. We have more power than we can imagine individually and collectively, and we can take steps towards real change. We need to stop looking for someone else to save us and solve our problems. In my opinion, we need to, what he's talking about here is we need to step out of the fantasy of a superhero coming to save the day and solve our own problems, which to a certain extent, yes, we should be doing that. We shouldn't be so wrapped up in fantasy that we lose sight of what's going on around us. But I still believe that there is one superhero that we should be turning to help us solve our problems. And that superhero has a name. His name is Jesus. Matter of fact, one of my all-time favorite Christian heavy metal bands named Pillar, a number of years ago, wrote a song. Can't play the song, but they wrote a song called Original Superman. And I thought I'd read the lyrics to it. Because this song's not about Superman Clark Kent, the one from Krypton. This song is about the original Superman, the original OG superhero of all time, the one superhero that is real, that is 100% alive and capable to help us in our lives. And his name is Jesus Christ. Listen to the song here. He heals the sick, he saves the lost, and died for you in case you've forgotten. Man, he'll jump a building in a single bound. I once was lost, but now I am found. He needs no mask or cape or gown. And all he needs is his holy crown. It's time for you to understand. Oh, let me turn off my filter here. Forgot it does that. It is time for you to understand Jesus Christ, the original Superman. Right here. Jesus Christ, the original Superman. He'll be our hero in the end. He is the one true super friend. Then the chorus, I kind of like the chorus, says, Kryptonite can't slow him down. Nothing can at all. He's always there for you. He'll pick you up if you should fall. He came to earth in the flesh and performing miracles and died for man. A 40-day fast is more than I could take. He did it for you and he did it for my sake. Ye of little faith, he said to them, raised his hand and all was calm again. It's time for you to understand Jesus Christ, the original Superman. Up, up, and away, he's saving souls in a new way. Just like Superman was there, he's always there to save the day. He works through all of us. Through him, we have the power. It's time to unify so we can constantly devour the devil and all his games. We need not be ashamed. By the way, the devil is the villain in this story, and Jesus is the superhero. It's the ultimate story. Matter of fact, I firmly believe that the story of Jesus Christ in the Bible is the blueprint where we get all the other stories of superheroes. It really is. Now, of course, man's flawed, and we tend to twist things or change things. But you can't change the fact that Jesus Christ is alive, that he is the original Superman, and it takes him and his power to help us solve the problems we had yesterday, today, and even tomorrow. Of anything we can do that we can glorify his name, many names he has been given. Prince of Peace, Son of Man. Here's one more for his list. The original Superman. So there you go. I think that, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why superhero stories are important. More importantly, the superhero story about Jesus is the most important superhero story we'll ever read about or hear about. So I encourage you, I encourage you, if you don't know this Jesus, it's as simple as picking up a Bible and reading about his story. Start in the book of John, the Gospel of John in the New Testament. Or better yet, if you like listening to this penguin, I've got a thing on my channel you can go watch. 40 days through the New Testament, to where I basically, all it is this crazy little penguin reading to you out of the New Testament. It's a good way to really hear a really good superhero story. Because the villain, the enemy, the devil, used man to crucify and put Jesus, our hero, on the cross. But Jesus didn't stay there. That's his superpower. He rose again from the grave as alive today. And is just waiting for each and every one of us to come to him. And to let him be our hope. And to save the day. Okay, that's enough rambling today for this little penguin. That's all I want to talk about. I hope maybe you might go see the new Superman movie. But more importantly, I'd love nothing better for you to go and read about the real superhero in this day and age. The superhero from all time, the original Superman, Jesus. And whatever you do, don't don a cape and try to fly off the roof. Gravity doesn't like that. It'll grab you. Anyway, I'm out of here, people. I'll see you next time. As always, I'm the crazy little penguin named Whataboutbob, and I'm out the window because the door's shut. And, well, it's been covered by peanut butter and jelly without bread, which is really sad because I like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Anyway, later, peeps. I'll catch you on the flip side.